Welcome to a new journey of learning English through stories. In today's video, we explore the inspiring life of one of the greatest thinkers in history, Ibn Rushd, also known as Averroes. This story is not just a lesson in English, it's a window into the past, filled with knowledge, courage, and the power of reason. Whether you're a beginner or already on your way to fluency, this story will help you learn new vocabulary, improve your listening skills, and discover the legacy of a brilliant mind. So sit back, stay curious, and let the story of Ibn Rushd guide you in English and through time.
Ibn Rushd, the philosopher of light and logic, born into wisdom. In the year 1126, in the golden city of Cordoba, Ibn Rushd, known in Latin as Averroes, was born into a family of scholars and judges. His grandfather was a famed Qadi, judge, and his father was a man of law and learning. From an early age, young Ibn Rushd was surrounded by books, court debates, and philosophical discussions. Unlike other children who played in the courtyards, he would often be found reading in the quiet corners of Cordoba's libraries. One story tells that by the age of 10, he had already memorized the Quran and started reading classical works in medicine and astronomy, all while studying Islamic jurisprudence, fiqh. The education of a genius. He traveled to cities like Seville and Marrakesh to study under the finest scholars of the Almohad Empire. Among his teachers was the famed Ibn Tufayl, philosopher and author of Hayy ibn Yaqzan. It was Ibn Tufayl who introduced him to the works of Aristotle and later recommended him to the Caliph Abu Yaqub Yusuf. "There is a young man," Ibn Tufayl said, "whose sharpness rivals the greatest minds. He can complete the task that I have grown too old to finish." The philosopher and the court. Ibn Rushd impressed the Caliph not only with his wisdom, but with his ability to harmonize philosophy with Islamic teachings. He was appointed court physician and chief judge, and his life changed. In the royal libraries of Marrakesh, he was granted access to rare Greek manuscripts and tasked with translating and commenting on the works of Aristotle. His commentaries were so clear and deep that Christian scholars in Europe would later call him the commentator. His writings influenced Thomas Aquinas, Albertus Magnus, and many more. For centuries, universities across Europe studied Ibn Rushd's interpretations of Aristotle as the standard. The philosopher's beliefs. Ibn Rushd believed in the unity of truth, that religion and philosophy seek the same truth, but through different methods. He wrote, "Truth does not contradict truth, but rather agrees with it and confirms it." He also believed in freedom of thought, logic, and that the pursuit of knowledge was a sacred duty. In his view, philosophy teaches us how to reason. Religion teaches us why we should live morally. Together, they guide the soul to truth. Books, medicine, and astronomy. Aside from philosophy, Ibn Rushd was a master physician. He wrote the famous medical book, Al-Kulliyat fi al-Tib, General Principles of Medicine, later translated into Latin as Collegiate. He also wrote on law and jurisprudence, like Bidiyat al-Mujtahid, astronomy and criticism of the Ptolemaic system, logic ethics, psychology, and metaphysics. He believed that science and faith must walk together, hand in hand. Exile and darkness. Not all agreed with Ibn Rushd. Later in life, a new caliph, al-Mansur, came to power and grew suspicious of philosophers. Under pressure from conservative scholars, Ibn Rushd was accused of heresy. He was banished to Lucena, a town for Jews, and many of his books were burned in public. Yet even in exile, he continued writing. One story tells that a man saw Ibn Rushd walking alone and mocked him. "What good has all your philosophy brought you now?" He smiled and replied, "It taught me to endure what I cannot change." Return and death. Shortly before his death, Ibn Rushd was pardoned and returned to Cordoba. He passed away in 1198, at the age of 72. There is a legend that when his body was transported for burial, his coffin was placed on one side of the mule and his books on the other, a poetic symbol of the balance he had kept between life and thought, body and mind. Legacy across worlds. Ibn Rushd's works were translated into Latin and Hebrew and widely studied across Europe. He helped lay the foundation for the European Renaissance. He is remembered today not only as a Muslim philosopher, but as a universal thinker, a man who stood bravely at the intersection of faith and reason. Famous quotes by Ibn Rushd. Ignorance leads to fear, fear leads to hatred, and hatred leads to violence. This is the equation. Women should be educated like men. They are equal in ability and intelligence. Philosophy is the friend of religion. They are both seeking the truth. The world is divided into men who have wit and no religion, and men who have religion and no wit. Anecdotes and wit. Once, a man asked Ibn Rushd, "Why do you bother with old Greek books?" He replied, "Because truth has no homeland. Wisdom belongs to whoever seeks it." During a debate, a scholar tried to trap him with a tricky question. Ibn Rushd simply smiled and said, "You are not seeking the answer. You are seeking to win. That is not philosophy. That is politics."
Thanks for watching. Want to learn more about Ibn Rushd? Listen to quotes from his works. Subscribe for more stories of history's greatest minds.